week 12 of the fantasy basketball season, and here's a few guards I looked to add off the wire this week. The first guy, Norman Powell, of the Los Angeles Clippers. So we know Powell, he's a great scorer throughout his career and three-point shooter. Going back, obviously, to the Toronto Raptors, the last season and change with the Clippers, and coming off the bench for the Clippers, and a guy who's filled in a lot over the last few years for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, where they've dealt with injuries and load management and stuff. So on the season, for Powell, 13.3 points a game, 2.3 rebounds, 1.1 assists, 2 threes, and 50% from the field. So Powell, like I said, he's going out there, he's hitting the three ball, and he's a solid guy that could come in anytime off the bench or need him as a starter and score the basketball at a decent rate. So the last few games for Powell, January 1st versus the Heat, 22 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 4 threes, 81%. January 3rd at the Suns, 13 points, 2 boards, and assists, 3 threes, 62% from the field. And January 5th at the Pelicans, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 3 threes, 38%. So obviously, when you're on a roster with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Harden, and Russell Westbrook, you're not going to touch the basketball as much, but we know Kawhi Leonard now, he's missed some games over the last few weeks. Paul George, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop for him to be banged up and injured. And right now, if you need three-point shooting and a guy can score the basketball at a good rate, Norman Powell's a good ad this week, available in 58% of fantasy league. Next ad's Dennis Smith Jr. of the Brooklyn Nets. Dennis Smith, we know he's a high draft pick many years ago by the Dallas Mavericks in the lottery, and he's bounced around the league now with a number of teams. The Mavs, New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets. He had a cup of coffee with the Charlotte Hornets as well. So like I said, Smith, a former lottery pick, and it just hasn't panned out for him, but at least he's carved out a backup role over the last few years. On the season, 7.3 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and 42% from the field. So never a good shooter of the basketball was Dennis Smith, but always great athleticism and a hustle type of player. And so the last few games, his minutes have ticked up a little bit here for Smith. January 2nd at the Pelicans, 9 points, a board, 4 assists, a steal, 2 threes, 42% from the field. January 5th versus the Thunder, 13 points, 12 boards, 7 assists, 2 steals, a 3, 54% from the field. And January 7th versus the Trailblazers, 10 points, 2 boards, 10 assists, 2 steals, 37% from the field. So Dennis Smith, he's a good passer of the basketball, and he's even been a decent rebounder at times where he could get double-digit rebounds like we saw a couple games ago where he had 12 in that one. So right now, if you need a guard who's going to help and assist, maybe score 10, 12 points per game with the expanded minutes, about 30 minutes a game over the last few games here, Dennis Smith's an ad this week, and he's available in 89% of fantasy leagues. Next ad's Dante DiVincenzo of the New York Knicks. He was mentioned last week as a pickup off the wire, and a lot of fantasy owners went out there and picked him up in 25% of fantasy leagues. So right now, the starting shooting guard DiVincenzo is for this Knicks team after that R.J. Barrett and Anunoby deal a couple weeks ago. So on the season for Dante DiVincenzo, 10.7 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.1 steals, 2.5 threes, and 46% from the field. But the last 2 weeks, he had 13.8 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.5 steals, 3 threes, and 49% from the field. So DiVincenzo, defenses, they're not going to pay attention to him, obviously, when they got to deal with Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and even Anunoby, a good three-point shooter as well now on this Knicks roster. So the last few games, DiVincenzo, he's gone out there and he's playing good minutes. And we even saw going back to December 30th, he had a 38-point game where he exploded with 7 threes in that one. So January 3rd versus the Bulls, 11 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, a steal, 3 threes, 40% from the field. January 5th at the 76ers, 14 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 4 threes, 66% from the field. Then January 6th at the Washington Wizards, 10 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, a steal, 2 threes, 40% from the field. So if you need three-point shooting, a decent rebounder as well, DiVincenzo's been getting 4 or 5 game over the last few weeks, and even a decent passer of the basketball, anywhere from 3 to 5 assists. So right now, he's a player that can help fantasy owners in 3 or 4 categories, and possibly the last chance for owners to get him off the wire this week, where he's out there in 53% of fantasy leagues. The next guard's Cody Martin of the Charlotte Hornets. So Cody Martin, we haven't seen much out of him, obviously, this year with injury, and for Cody Martin over the last month and a half of the season. He just returned the last 5 games. Here's Martin. So on the season, 8 points a game, 2.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 1.7 steals, 1.13 a game, and 38% from the field. So we know Martin, he's not a good field goal percentage type of player, but he's a guy that could get hot and score points and help him rebounding as well. So the last few games for Martin, his minutes have gone up as well with injuries over there with this Hornet team. Obviously, LaMelo Ball, he's been out for a while now. Gordon Hayward in and out of the lineup, banged up with injury. And now Martin's been back, and his minutes have been bumped up. January 1st at Denver, 2 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks in that one, 0% from the field. January 2nd at the Kings, 10 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, a steal, a 40% from the field. Then January 5th at the Bulls, 13 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 threes, 45% from the field. So Cody Martin, he could shoot that 3 ball a little bit. He could score some points. And he's a good rebounder and a decent assist of the basketball as well. So if you need a couple categories, I think Martin could help on. Is obviously in deeper leagues, available in 95% of fantasy leagues. In the 5th and final guard I looked at off the wire is Alec Burks of the Detroit Pistons. So Burks, I suspect he's going to get traded towards the deadline within the next month. Here is Burks. And we know he's a good defender and a decent 3-ball shooter as well throughout his career. So in the season for Burks, 10.7 points a game, 2.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.9 threes a game, and 36% from the field. But the last couple weeks, he's starting to get things going, and he's starting to get a hot streak. 17.3 points a game, 2.8 rebounds, 1.2 assists, 3.3 threes a game, and 44% from the field. So Burks, we know he's never been a good field goal percentage guy, but 3-point shooting, rebounding, and scoring the basketball for the most part is his category specialties. Right now, he's available in 88% of fantasy leagues. So the last few games for Burks, January 3rd at the Jazz, 27 points, 4 boards, and assists, 5 threes, 52% from the field. January 5th at the Warriors, 13 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, block, 3 threes, 35% from the field. Then January 7th at the Denver Nuggets, in that one, he had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 threes, 71% from the field. So right now, he's shooting the 3-ball at a good clip. Here's Alec Burks. He's getting major minutes for the most part, 25 to 35-minute range for this Piston team. And I know, like I said, most likely at the deadline, with this Piston team being the worst team in the league, they're going to trade off some veterans and try to get draft picks or even build with younger guys. Burks could be one of those players. But right now, while he's playing good basketball, he's an ad this week. So that's a few guards I look to add here in Week 12 of the fantasy basketball season.